Thank you everyone for joining us on a Friday. We appreciate you taking out the time of your day. It's Yerba Mate, represent Cal Poly, so that's gonna be super cool. Hope you're all very excited. We got Alex Pryor today. Unfortunately, David Carr couldn't join us because of Wi-Fi, some technical issues, but one man's enough to do the job. And then second, just real quick, next Tuesday, we have Jim Mizey's former CEO and president of Blaze Pizza coming in. So that's week 6. That's going to be on a Tuesday, back to regular schedule. And then lastly, if you're new to Cal Poly Entrepreneurs, this is all our social media handles and our website. Please stay connected with us through there. We post everything and anything we do, plus additional content. So enjoy today's meeting. Thanks for coming out. And if you're new, please message me later. I'd love to chat. And Lane, you can take it away.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Super excited to have Alex Pryor here today from Yerba Mate, of course. I want to show some love in the chat. If everybody could just drop their favorite flavor of Yerba Mate, show the love to Alex. I think he'd appreciate that. And I've got a lot of questions for you today, Alex. Hope you're ready to answer them. When you guys have questions, just leave them in the chat and I'll call on you when I feel the time is right. But Alex, I want to start off with your upbringing. You're obviously from Argentina. Can you talk about how you landed at Cal Poly and kind of your transition into American life?
Yes, sure. Can everybody hear me well? All good? All right. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor. Great to see lots of you there in Cal Poly. It was some fun years there for sure. And well, I usually, I share this and it might sound funny, but I think that, Guayakí started from an act of love, really. And we all did, we all the consequence of an act of love. And I was conceived in Paraguay. So I guess the Guarani and the Yerba Mate spirit has been always inside of me. Then I was born and grew up in Argentina, always just sort of in the back of the car of this father and mother that were driving long hours and as agronomists, just going to the agriculture frontier with the forest and just experiencing the causes and consequences of deforestation and this agriculture, expansion, just moving inward. And I guess, I was very young. I probably didn't understand most of what my parents were speaking about, but somewhere it stayed, I think. And always I could smell the yerba mate while my mother was like pouring on the gourd on the traditional way of drinking yerba mate. And passing the gourd to my dad while he was driving. So kind of like the smell is one of my initial memories of yerba mate. But then from there on, it's always been part of my life. I don't see it as a separate part of my body, really. So that has also been, sort of inside of me, with the birds and animals and rivers and forests. They've always been part of my childhood. So they've always been part of me, I can't separate them. How did I end up in Cal Poly is, I finished school here in Argentina and I needed some new horizons and lenses of looking at reality and just seeing the world a little bit. So I went to Santa Barbara first. I visited some friends there, and then I had an Argentine friend that was a food science major in Cal Poly, and she said, "Hey, come over and just check it out and come and visit, and we'll drink some mate." And so I went there. It was 1991, and I took the train from Santa Barbara with my bike and just landed there at the train station and just got my way around and met her at the Ag building in Cal Poly and just walked around and, "Hey, come, here I am." And she introduced me immediately to Dr. Montecalvo. That time he was the head of the food science department. And we sat down, we talked, and he said, well, if you want to study here, I have a place for you for the summer quarter. I was like, oh, okay. It's like, well, I'm not sure what I want to do, but, thanks for the invite. And I gave it some thought, not much. And I just like biked around, surfed, went to Montaña de Oro, checked around the area and said like, this is a really awesome place where to live. And that's kind of like really liked it. I said, yeah, I'll just do it. So that's how I ended up in Cal Poly.
At that time, was yerba mate being sold in the area, or was it something?
No. I mean, I would get pulled over by cops often. Like, what are you doing? Put your hands up. It's like, what is that? And then, it just became a long talk. And
I heard
where
you
get it?
became.
And,
I heard you
I don't
became
know
the
where you
campus
can get
dealer.
it. You have to fly to Argentina to get it.
Yeah, you became the yerba mate campus dealer, right? So where'd you get the yerba mate from?
Then, well, as the years went by, I was working as a waiter in a restaurant that's not there anymore. It was like a Caribbean Mexico. It was Pizza Outside Cafe. It was an awesome place. And anyway, just I was working there. I knew a lot of people in town, and just a lot of people were asking me what was that drink, and friends, and we would go surfing and we would drink mate, and more people wanted some mate. So there wasn't any yerba mate around. You couldn't get it. So I had small stashes of when I would come down here and visit my family, and I would take mate back. So one year I said, well, maybe I should take some more and start selling this. And but I was part of like the student experimental farm there at Cal Poly. And I was starting to get involved in organic, and I was living in a farm in Bear Creek Ranch. It's called, up in Los Osos Valley Road. And I started to work as a assistant there in the farm, and working with all organics and going to farmers market, representing Cal Poly experimental farm there. And I was like, well, if I'm going to start selling this, I want it to be from a source that is actually protecting the forest, and it's helping the local people. So I went down to Paraguay, visit some friends and family, and I found a project that was doing shade-grown yerba mate, was working with indigenous communities, and that's when I said, this is it. I mean, if we can sell the yerba mate, and at this time I say we, but it was by myself. If I can sell this yerba mate with a purpose, helping the people that still live in the last remnants of forest, that would be awesome. And that's how it started. I took 200 kilos, shipped them by air, went to pick them up to LAX cargo, put them in the back of my truck, drove all the way back, and started inviting my friends, which one of them was David Carr, to help me pack. And I was like printing labels from the printers at school, because I had no money at all. I mean, I was like just working as a waiter day by day, kind of living. And we started packing, and then going out to the market and selling it like in the health food stores and coffee shops and farmers market there.
Was this before the senior project, or was this after?
This was in a parallel basis. It all sort of like happened within a year's time.
So you realized there was a huge market, and were you at all reluctant to try to make a business out of this, considering coffee's popularity?
Yeah, I don't know if a huge market, but it was like it was just fun kind of thing, right? It wasn't like I was not considering this to be something huge, but yes, bringing it as an alternative to coffee. And so already it was sort of like having some momentum and some track. But I had no idea how to run a business or anything. I was just, farmer's market.
Mm-hmm. So you met your first
But,
business partner, David, and then 3 other guys, right?
Yes.
All from Poly. And then I read on your website,
Except one.
except one.
Yeah.
I read on your website about this cross-country trip you guys did in your bus. Can you talk about that? Because I'm super curious. It was around the year 2000.
That was mostly David.
Oh, it was David?
That was mostly David. Yeah. Well, what happened was that, David was my first, partner, and he was starting a computer business and selling computers. Remember, this was like everything was starting. Internet was just beginning to exist. And so he had a computer business. I was selling the yerba mate. We were really good friends. Then he dropped that business, joined the business with me, and immediately his brother Steven, Don Miguel, a good friend, and Chris Mann, which he's a Harvard graduate, but he was living in town and starting a 100% wild vegan food restaurant, and we loved going there and just eating there, and became friends with him, and then asked him if he could join us and run the business, run all the business financial aspects of it. So he did. And at that moment, I flew down to Argentina, got married. David hit the road and started just doing demos all around the West Coast mainly, and then, cross country, and just opening an account by demoing. So I'm going to festivals and events, and with a motorhome, together with his brother and Don Miguel. And Chris stayed in the office running orders and all the numbers.
Around what time did you guys start canning the yerba mate?
Canning. Well, we first started with glass bottles in 2004, 2005. And then 2008, we did the cans.
Was it all at all difficult to make that transition from home brew to commercial product?
No, it wasn't. I mean, the hardest thing was just financially, right? Just creating that jump from going from the loose and the tea bags to start bottling. It was more than anything a financial issue. I mean, once we had the money, we did it. We would have done it before, but we didn't have the money.
Was there ever a time where you and David disagreed about kind of the future and direction of the company, what you guys wanted to focus on, or was the environment and sustainability both your focus from the beginning, and did
Completely.
It stay that way?
Never questioned. Never. On the contrary, it was just like feeding itself and very dynamic. And, we went from defining it as market-driven conservation to market-driven restoration to market-driven regeneration. Now it's just like, it just keeps on, on growing and being more interesting and more challenging too.
Can you talk a little bit about that market-driven regeneration and kind of tie that into your guys' status as a B Corp, just for people who are curious about sustainability?
Yeah, sure. Now I'll try to be as brief as possible. But it was always embedded in the DNA from day one, the concept that the why, why are we doing this, right? I mean, besides being, an alternative to coffee, and that the product was really a product that we believed was very, very good. We more than anything, what we wanted to do is to create a business that was regenerating, the Atlantic forest and the cultures of the communities living there. So that is the why. Then the how was, okay, we need to create a market for this that's unknown, and let's start through, health food stores mainly, because there's more awareness of the health and people looking for an alternative to coffee and energy drinks and whatnot, right? And then it was like, okay, and the when, that's kind of like key, when do we come up with a can? When do we go international? When do we start our own distribution, right? So then becomes all the timing issues that are key in a business, right? When do we need to bring in more hires that are, with more experience, more professional? When do we need to bring investors? When do, everyone wants an exit strategy. So time becomes like essential in a business, right? And then at the same time, we were like considering the time of nature to regenerate and the forest to come back and of the growers to also be able to grow the plant and meet, quality standards and whatnot. So there was also that timing. And for us, the B Corp was like in 2007, they approached us, and it was Chris who was sort of like, hey guys, I've been approached by this certification that's certifying the company rather than the product as organic, certifying the performance and the purpose of the entire company. Does it sound interesting? I said, yeah, hell yeah, why not? It's precisely what we're doing, and it's a way to give us some credit for the work that we do. So that's how we started, with B Corp and being one of the first 25 companies to become certified. And because it was so embedded in our DNA, it was easy for us. Right?
Where are you guys at on your kind of environmental mission? Are you guys just getting started, or is Guayakí kind of where you envisioned it when you started the company? And is it, you view it may plateau in terms of its market potential?
Yeah, I think if we take the analogy of agriculture, it's like these last 25 years we really prepared the soil. I mean, we focused on the soil, just recycling it and having it super well fed, and it's so alive and ready, right? So I feel like we're just getting started, and I think we have, a tremendous potential now because of two reasons mainly. Number one, it's because everyone is looking, all stakeholders are looking at ways to do business that is regenerating ecosystems and culture and communities, and it's empowering people, diversity, social issues, and social justice and social rights, not only indigenous, but in, Black Lives Matter, like in the US. And we're that type of company, but we're not still the very big company. We're still, relatively small. And, but we're ready. We have a product that can also be easily consumed and reachable to most consumers, not only in the US, but also international. And so I believe that, we're just at the brink of bright years to come of regenerative business, of regenerating life and ecosystems. And we never expected this, right? You never sort of like have this master plan that things are going to just work out this way 25 years later, still being with my first partner, with Chris, with Steven, with Don Miguel, the semillas that we call, we're still partners. We're all together 25 years later, So I think that we're just getting started, and we feel like we're in our 50s. We were like 25 when we started, and, we're still full of energy. We love what we're doing. And, we're like inviting more people to come in and be part of Guayakí. And at this point, we're well funded and very, very well supported by super professional people. And by the way, we got a new CEO. It was announced just 2 days ago. So now it's publicly, we can share it. So we got a new CEO, which was a big move for us. And so I'll share that with you guys if you want.
He's not part of the original 5?
No, he just came in. So this we were looking for a role that will help us in this next growth stage. Somebody that would know that route to market, that will have the experience, that will come from a beverage industry, but that would also be aligned with the values of Guayakí, the regenerative values, that I just mentioned, of cultural diversity, regenerating the ecosystem. That's the main reason why we're in business, the main objective, and the economics being like our means to obtain that, right? And we did it. It was difficult because it was like finding this unique person, and obviously we wanted somebody diverse, and we ended up finding this guy who's Austrian, very pragmatic, very focused, that also comes from the industry. He comes from Red Bull, and that is a wholehearted person that loves relationships, that what defines him is relationships. And that's what defines Guayakí. The main concept that defines Guayakí is relationships, right? And that has the experience and the knowledge to expand and scale up, and being able to carry on and steward the spirit of Guayakí. So his name is Stefan Kozak. He's Austrian, married to a Brazilian, lived in Brazil for 14 years, speaks fluently in Portuguese, and he was the CEO for Red Bull in the US. So now he's the new CEO for Guayakí. So we're stoked. Woo!
You guys saw 14% year-over-year revenue, was it? I read the mission statement earlier. Sounds like you guys are really kicking butt from a business perspective now.
Yeah, I would say that I don't know if kicking butt, but I think we are a business that is balancing always the carrying capacity of our supply chain with the growth speed, if you want, right? And also just considering that we need to do it in a regenerative way, and that's challenging because it's kind of like multidimensional. You need to, it's not just linear. It's not like a regular usual business that it's more linear. You just maximize profits, minimize costs. And here's, you got to internalize the externalities, put a value to it. And at the same time, measure it and get your KPIs and your metrics, and to be able to incorporate those impacts, social and environmental impacts, into the life cycle of your product and of the organization. And that's super challenging. It's not an easy task. So I think, for us, is we're at a stage where, like organic agriculture or regenerative agriculture is you just don't pump a whole bunch of fertilizers into your soil and just have a mega yield crop year, right?
Yeah.
You sort of like stage it, and you create an ecosystem that will sustain itself. So that takes like longer mindsets, and then at the same time, it's the yield that you're going to get out of that system is the yield that can support life in that system. Does it make sense? Or did I get a little too?
No, I get it. Yeah. There's a lot of moving pieces involved for sure. Do you feel like you could have scaled Guayakí a lot faster if you didn't have all this environmental and sustainability stuff looming over you in the background? Or do you feel like kind of that stuff is part of the product and part of the appeal to a lot of people?
It's part of the personality, of the persona that defines what Guayakí is. And if we would have been another beverage company with probably artificial flavors and, and just looking at, exiting and selling the company in 5 years, it would be a totally different story. And that's not something that it never entered our minds.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just like, we believe that this product will be successful without altering, right, the ingredients, without altering the purpose, the why.
Do you remember the first time you saw your product on a grocery store shelf?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it's a good question. Feels great, it feels great when it feels better, really, not when you see it on the shelf. It feels great when you see somebody in the cash register with your product, like actually buying it. Yes.
So you guys just got a Whole Foods partnership, or did that happen some time ago?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah,
a long time ago. Okay.
One of like the first, definitely, partners. And it took some time to sell it in campus store. It's a funny story. I was more excited when I saw it in the cooler there in campus store.
Can you talk?
Just not too long ago. What?
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's a Coca-Cola campus, so it was impossible to get in. So it's like, contracts and right? The campus where we graduated from wouldn't take our product. It was nuts.
Exactly. That's crazy.
But eventually we got through it, through the unions, and students requesting it, and we got it in from a very grassroots democratic way. It's just like this is ridiculous. I mean, if it doesn't sell, okay, don't buy it. But you have to open up the space for products to be in the market.
Was it more difficult for you guys to distribute the original yerba mates, or was it more difficult to source ethically and sustainably?
No, I would say that wasn't difficult to source. It was more than anything the awareness of yerba mate that, it was, we had to do a lot of work. Most people didn't know what yerba mate was.
Right. It kind of ties into Kaylin's question. Kaylin, you want to unmute?
Sure. Hey, Alex, just wanted to thank you for coming in. Yerba Mate does your company does a great job of kind of crafting the story around how unique your product is and sort of what the sustainable and kind of, economic benefits are. So I'm just curious, like, what advice do you have for crafting a story around your company? Because I imagine, it takes a lot of iterations and something very difficult to do.
You mean like telling the story? I didn't understand. I mean, you mean like,
right? I mean, yeah, like what are some pieces of advice that you have for like telling that story? Because you might have it, but telling people and getting people to resonate and really respond is a different challenge to tackle. So I'm curious, like, maybe from your experiences, how have you and your company, how have you guys been able to achieve that?
Well, it was never sort of like, it was like you said, I mean, it was just telling the story, it was just informative. It wasn't, a persuasive speech. So for us, it was really just sharing, the dream and inviting people to be part of it, and just like, if we're going to make this, we're going to make it together. I mean, valuing every stakeholder, that makes it possible, from the growers to the people who buy the product to, the people that work in the company and the investors and everything that sort of are aligned in this, purpose the company. And so I guess it just was feeding itself, right, on just the different relationships that we build, and talking about the product in itself. Obviously the product in itself has a lot to talk about, and sometimes that's not the case. It's like how much can you talk about water? Well, actually water you can talk a lot. Not a good example. You talk a lot about water, but how much can you talk about, I don't know, let's go to another beverage company that just is trying to sell this product that it's got energy and it's good for you, but period, nothing else. So that usually they tell a story about something else, right? They talk about sports, or they talk about other things, right? Because they can't talk too much about the product. In our case, we were able to talk a lot about the product, about the plant, about the cultural knowledge of the plant, the health benefits of the plant, how it's grown, the people that's benefiting. This is what we're passionate about. And then obviously, supporting, culture around yerba mate, because yerba mate you share it, and it is a symbolism of hospitality. And so we created this Come to Life, which is like our media platform, and we support artists, we support theater, we support not only sports, but we support the fact that people come together to share. And so that's been really part of our communication. It's just telling really everything that has to do with yerba mate, with the plant. I don't know if that helps, but
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah, that answered it. Thanks.
Alex, how much of the yerba mate market share is South American versus North American? Are you guys big in Latin American countries yet, or is it primarily American drink?
No, you mean in particular for the whole entire category of yerba mate, or you asking for
just this company?
Just Guayakí. For
Yeah,
Guayakí, it's mainly US.
Mainly US. Is that something?
99% US.
Why do you think that is? I'm curious.
Well, because the US is like you have many countries within one country, many different cultures within one culture, but within one frame. And so it's easier to market and distribute in the US than if you go to countries like Europe or South America, where they all have different regulations, different languages, very different cultural backgrounds. So it's harder, it's not as easy. The US, it is an easier market to be able to go national, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is the environmental impact of one can? What percentage of it are you setting aside for social benefit, or does that vary?
Of the entire can, 100% of it.
100%. But don't you have to cover manufacturing expenses and distribution expenses? Because only a small percentage of it is really going back to the land, correct?
Oh, because you're referring how much of it goes back to the land? I thought you were asking how much does it impact, because see, who distributes is electric vehicles, incarcerated people. So the aluminum is the most recycled mineral in the earth, or the most available one, although it uses a lot of energy, right? And most of the aluminum comes from China, and it uses coal. So then we work on the supply of the aluminum that comes from renewable energy. Where does it come from? Well, let's switch from China one and let's go to the one in Canada. So our impact is across the whole cycle of the product, not only in the yerba mate. Yes.
Got it. Yeah, that answers my question.
So it's even the water, We're like going deep into the water. Where does the water from that can come? California. Well, not exactly. It comes from the Colorado River, comes from Oregon. Okay, what are we doing to mitigate the water usage, even though it comes from tap water filtered from LA? Well, we still need to do something about that water, right? About the watersheds protection. So we're working with watershed protection. We're working with interdependence of water being produced by the Amazon forest that through transevaporation creates all these flying rivers that go south and go all the way north as well. So part of the rainfall that falls in California is produced by the Amazon. So we have projects working together to preserve the Amazon. So everywhere, the secret is that in that can, we have to have an impact, a regenerative impact in every single ingredient.
What are you most proud of? Are you
Most proud of?
Yeah.
Of in Guayakí or my life in general?
The impact you've created through Guayakí.
Most proud, I would say it's the relationships that we've, who am I? What defines me is the relationships that I have today. My friends, my partners, everything, my family, my relationship with nature. What kind of relationship do I have with nature? Do I care? Am I aware of it? That's what I feel more like, honored to be part of a learning process that is just keeps on feeding and with a lot of abundance. And the reason why is because I guess we're focusing on nature as a source, right, of abundancy. And that allows for the relationships to be a win-win relationship instead of a I win, you lose, which is a sum-zero relationship. And usually that occurs when we don't take care of the resources. It's like someone has to win because there's not enough for both to win, you see. So that's where the paradigm shift comes in. Like if you focus in what's providing you abundancy, friendship, happiness, food, nature, if you like surfing or you like mountain biking or skiing or whatever you do, you focus on that and in preserving that and that for other generations to come, then you're always going to, be building relationships that are win to win. And that's what I'm most, excited about with all the challenges that we're living in, right? I mean, climate change, COVID, all the changes and uncertainties. That's how I can embrace uncertainty. I love uncertainty. I think that's where the door of perceptions are. It's kind of funny, but many people can't pronounce what Guayakí is. And I go like, imagine a door and a key. Why a key? So
I practice
why a key? Maybe it's to open new doors of perception. And that's the reason why we're in business. Let's open many more doors of perception. There's so much that we don't know.
Right. Well, it's crazy to think just the impact you've had on your co-founder, David. I'm sure his life would look a lot different if he didn't find you and join your mission. It's a great story. I can sense your passion, and I'm sure everybody else listening can. There doesn't appear to be any questions in the chat, but Alex, I just want to say I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope other people have as well. We always end the meetings with one final question. What advice would you have for what advice do you have for young college entrepreneurs? If you were to just kind of wrap it up, your spiel today, what would you advise everybody here?
Keep taking risks. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a risk taker. Keep going. Don't look back. Yeah.
Love it. Well, Alex, you're free to step out. Thank you so much. Everybody enjoyed it, and we're all avid Yerba Mate fans. We've got one more announcement. from Ethan. So if everybody could just stick around. But
Thank you.
Thank you again, Alex. Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody. Ciao, ciao.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Alex. That was awesome. I remember we used to live off of Yerba Mate for startup weekends. So hopefully you guys can experience that. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly tell you guys about my book. I'm a former Cal Poly Entrepreneurs Officer. I used to be called the Master of Coin. So I think it's kind of relevant that I'm writing a book about cryptocurrency. But yeah, I wanted to reach out because CPE was like a really important part of my process of writing this book. It was actually at a CPE event that I had my big idea for this book, like the idea that this book is based on. So yeah, I just really am supportive of you guys. And basically, I don't know if you guys know too much about cryptocurrency, but I think it's going to be like just as monumental to disruption as the internet was for all industries. So if you guys are paying attention to crypto or blockchain, it's a really cool and ever evolving industry. Yeah, so I wrote a book about social currencies. So the idea is that every single person would have their own coin in the future. And I think that's relevant to entrepreneurship because if you think about it, doesn't it make sense that you should be able to invest in the entrepreneur instead of the business, right? Like the riskiest investment you can make is in an entrepreneur's first business, right? Because those are the ones that are most likely to fail. But what if you could just invest in the entrepreneur's coin, which then funds the business? Think about it this way. It's like investing in Elon Musk before he even joined PayPal. You can invest in his coin, and then you get to benefit from every company he's created all the way up to SpaceX. That'd be like a way better investment in like an entrepreneur than the business. And I think that doesn't exist yet, but cryptocurrency allows for that type of investment. And so that's what I actually wrote about in my book. So if you're interested in that idea, I also write about venture capital in my book and how cryptocurrency will disrupt venture capital. But yeah, those are like the main big ideas. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I have my socials here. But yeah, also my book pre-order ends tomorrow. So if you like to get the book, I really appreciate that. It's on Indiegogo, and yeah, you can get to that through ethantur.com. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Everybody be sure to check that out. Sorry I missed you in the beginning there, Ethan. My bad. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed today's meeting. Let me know if you have questions, stick around. But that's all it for today. Tune in next week.